When it comes to major pay-per-view fights in boxing, there's nothing else that truly grabs that same amount of attention in sports. Whether it be Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis, Oscar De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather, or Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao, you can literally turn on any major sporting network and for the entirety of the week before the fight happens, sometimes even longer, that's all they'd be talking about. You could walk down the street of any major North American city, try your luck and get inside to any bar, and you probably will get in unless you made a reservation 4 or 5 days in advance. Trust me, I've been there. I remember being 17 years old and being so excited to watch Mayweather versus Pacquiao and being a cheap ass and not wanting to order the pay-per-view that literally 40 minutes before the fight began, I went down to Yonge Street in Toronto and tried to get in every bar possible and literally got into none. So I had to watch it through a window of a Wild Wing. Yeah, I was that desperate. Now fast forward almost a decade later. It seems like those days are long past us. Or at least I thought. With MMA continuously growing in popularity and the UFC's ability to monopolize the sport, it seemed that fight fans have had fully shifted their attention for fighting over to UFC completely. But with rising stars, with polarizing personalities coming back into boxing, it seems that boxing is back. In the past 3 years, we've been treated to epic fights such as Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz 1 and 2, Deontay Wilder in the 3 fights he had with Tyson Fury, although Wilder lost. It's an epic fight to watch nonetheless. I'm a big Wilder fan, full disclosure. And of course, the Canelo Alvarez Gennady Golovkin fights he, that took place in September of 2017 and September 2018 in the rematch. Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis have had the privilege of being promoted both by two legendary boxers, Ryan Garcia being promoted by Oscar De La Hoya and Gervonta Davis being promoted by Floyd Mayweather. Their massive arsenal of marketing and commercial advertisement have been able to take these fighters to a whole new level that no other young boxer in this generation has been able to achieve. Both of these fighters have a very aggressive, polarizing way of fighting in which a knockout is always to be expected, usually, pretty much. They're, they both have a personality in which it seems like they will go in and die nothing else, and they will talk the shit. And honestly, I think that's what boxing needs. They can sell, they have personality, and they're not scared of showing it off. I truly believe that this is the next fight that can attract that type of buzz that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather got to. Or even when Oscar De La Hoya fought Floyd Mayweather and all the Mike Tyson fights in the 90s. Yeah, I think it can get to that point. But that being said, I think both the promoters know this, and I think both Ryan and Gervonta know this. And that's why this fight won't happen for at least another 2 to 3 years. They're going to want to generate as much buzz as possible, and they're going to obviously want to generate as much revenue and pay-per-view buys as they can. So they can claim all they want that they want to fight each other as soon as possible. They want to fight each other next, but they know that's just business, and they know that this fight won't happen anytime soon. And it sucks because that's what's wrong with boxing. When you want to see a fight when it needs to happen, it's never usually that way. And as much as the promoters, as much as the fighters say that they're trying to change that, they're really not trying to change that. As long as they have exclusive deals with their networks such as DAZN, Showtime, ESPN, Fox, it's going to continue to be this way. And that can be ultimately will be the nail in the coffin for boxing. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's the narrative the mainstream media likes to put when it comes to the sport. If this fight does go down, I'm in the minority in which I truly believe Ryan can pull off the upset, and I think he can do it by knockout. I'm in the believer that speed trumps power, and I think Ryan Garcia has had a better resume overall compared to Gervonta Davis. You can argue Gervonta Davis's win over Gamboa was a pretty significant one, but Gamboa was almost already 40, and he was long past his peak. Ryan Garcia, on the other hand, has fought Fonseca, so has Davis, but I don't know if you have yet to see the highlights of that fight. Garcia took him out in the first round. Gervonta Davis, who came into that fight overweight, knocked him out with a shot to the back of his head, and I believe it was the 6th or 7th. And this was on the undercard of Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Quite disappointing. I think this shows that Ryan Garcia is built for the moment, and he embraces the spotlight more than Tank Davis does. And I think when it comes down to it, I think this is what's going to be what propels Ryan to the next level. Canelo only has so long left to be the face of boxing. And right now, I'd say second is Gervonta Davis based on pay-per-view numbers. In his last 3 fights, he's gotten over 200,000 pay-per-view buys, which is a lot for boxing. I know in the UFC they continuously get around 500, but you have to remember their cards tend to be stacked from top to bottom, whereas in boxing, most of the time it's just the main fight that really everyone looks forward to. When Ryan and Tank do fight, I think it's gonna be very nostalgic for old boxing fans. It's gonna remind everyone of those days when you'd be waiting months and weeks before to see a fight that you've been waiting so long to see. It's gonna be a fight that you'll have no problem paying the pay-per-view price for. And trust me, for a fight like this, it's gonna be well over $80. And I don't think the argument that illegal streams is depriving the fight from happening. I don't think that that'll be an argument at that point. I think the buzz for that fight will be so strong that efforts will be made to counter any illegal streams that will try and pirate the fight. And just thinking about this makes me sad because I would love to see a fight like this in December, but it's just not going to happen. I truly believe this fight will happen around late 2023, early 2024. And when it does happen, best believe you can turn on SportsCenter, any Fox Sports programming, or here in Canada, any TSN Sportsnet programming, and that's all they'll be talking about. But it's gonna be a while before you see that. But for now, nonetheless, I think every fan of boxing should still buy as many pay-per-views as they can for Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis, because that's really what's the only way the fight gets made sooner rather than later. Once they see that the interest on both sides is there, then they'll buy the fight. And the idea that, or the argument that DAZN and Showtime can work together to create this fight, and that how they want to host the fight just on one network, I believe they'll be able to come together and show the fight. When Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fought, Wilder had an exclusive deal with PBC and Fox, and Tyson Fury had a deal with ESPN, and they were still able to co-show the fight and co-promote the fight. Same thing with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. Pacquiao having an exclusive rights deal with HBO, and Floyd Mayweather having an exclusive rights deal with Showtime. But yet, both those fights still happen. It's just all about knowing that the interest is there, and knowing that they'll generate the pay-per-view numbers and live gate that they think they'll get. And if Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis fight, they will get those numbers easily. It may not be 4 million pay-per-view buys like Pacquiao versus McGregor, Mayweather versus Pacquiao, or Mayweather versus McGregor, but I think it can definitely do 2 million. And as I said earlier, once this fight goes down, Ryan will win, and this will definitely take him to be the face of boxing. Thank you guys for watching, and remember to subscribe. Thank you.